I'm Ron Lawson with Dirtbike magazine. I'm here near Barcelona, Spain at the Polia camp, which has a great history. This was a facility originally owned by the Bolto family. If you've been around for a long time, you might recognize that name. It comes from Bultaco. For years, this is where those bikes were developed, and today, Stark Future has the use of it to develop their electric motorcycles. The reason I'm here is to test the new Stark Varg EX, which they call an enduro bike here in Europe. When it gets to the States, we'll call it a dual sport bike. It's similar to the original Stark Varg motocross bike, but with some key differences. Just to summarize, it has softer suspension, of course you'd expect that. The frame is a little more compliant, especially in a vertical plane. And then the motor has about 20% more capacity. We weren't riding all around this ranch. Excellent conditions. I mean, perfect test for this bike because we got to ride all together in two different stints, probably over 2 hours. We used about half of a charge. And first of all, the suspension, they really nailed it. It's KYB suspension, much softer than the motocross bike, and then with the little bit of added compliance that the frame has, it is an excellent ride. Now, of course, most of the challenge is relearning how to ride a motorcycle. There's no clutch, there's no gearbox. The bike has a very, very smooth roll-on. And of course, you can adjust that all. There are 5 modes you can select, just like the motocross version. The first mode that I used for most of the day, to tell you the truth, was I think about 24 horsepower and about 60% engine braking. Now, on this bike, there was no foot brake. The US models, when they come as fully legal dual sport bikes, they have to have a foot brake. They'll have that. The blinkers will be a little different, a few other things, but you still have those same 5 levels of engine configuration. I went up to 80 horsepower briefly. There was no need for it. I just don't have that much skill. The dirt itself was perfect traction, but there were rocks and stair steps, and I was riding with some very accomplished riders. One was Jordi Sala, who is a hard enduro rider of some accomplishment, and then Anton Voss, who is the CEO of the company and an incredible rider. Some advice, if you ever go riding with Anton, don't get in a wheelie contest with him. He'll eat you alive. But anyways, the 3 of us had a great time riding all the hills, and in the course of that, I really did learn how to ride this bike, and I learned to love it. This particular model had a hand rear brake, and that was my biggest adjustment. It took me a while to figure out how to use that because, you know, I have no modulation in my left hand. I wanted to just pull on the clutch all the way, so I would grab it and I would lock up the rear brake. in every other way, I really liked it. There were some deep ruts where normally you have to pull your feet off the pegs, and then you're basically in a free fall on a normal motorcycle. With the hand rear brake, so much better. It's just a matter of learning to adjust to it. Again, in the US, this model will have a foot brake, but I imagine people will go with the handbrake option, which should be available straight over from the motocross bike. So it's so narrow, it's hard to hold on with your knees.
Yeah, but I like it so much because now I get any combustion bike and it's like I'm riding the bike with the legs open.
Yeah.
I always try to ride the bike riding with my legs also. My arms more relaxed. If not, you get arm pump. Just riding with the legs way better. With this bike, yeah, I try to always, with other bikes also, put the maximum the feet on the pegs and find the traction. And when you stop, you just put your back in the bottom, in the back part of the bike, and then you find much traction.
With this bike, though, as in everyone's mind, is really going to be all about range and recharging, and there are some plans in that category. I believe that riding like we did in tight trails, I could have gotten about 5 hours or 65 miles or something like that out of it, which is more than a tank of gas on a normal bike. That's great. Many rides are multiple loops, though, where you want to fill up again. And that will be a challenge for this bike. Down the road, they have some vague plans where they will be able to use some of the automotive charging stations that we have in the US. But there's a variety of them, and that would require an adapter. Those plans are very vague at this moment, but it would be great if those could actually happen, because you could do a dual sport ride, stop in, have a little lunch, charge the bike, make it home. As of right now, it'll be a one-loop bike. You could, in theory, replace the battery. It takes something about 5 minutes if you know what you're doing. Not really practical, though. The battery is about half the cost of the motorcycle, and it is an especially cheap motorcycle. The MSRP is going to be similar to the motocross bike, and we'll have that for you. But anyways, I'm going to go home now and think about the opportunity I've had here, and I can't wait to get the Varg EX Dual Sport back in the States. It should be available in the first quarter is what they're saying. It's going to be so much fun when that does, and we get to explore basically a whole new type of dual sport riding. You'll be able to read more about this at dirtbikemagazine.com and check us out on Instagram and X. Thanks for watching.